Hey, welcome to the Elle Russ Show. My name is Elle Russ, and I am a #1 best-selling author and master coach. My intention is to inspire, educate, and motivate you with weekly content featuring amazing guests and solo episodes. Visit my website, elleruss.com, to learn more about me, my courses, free masterclasses, partner discounts, and much more. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, today we have one of my favorite people in the health industry and in general, Barbara Diaz de Leon. She is a licensed registered nurse, and she's also a primal health coach. She is, you guys will have to all check the show notes and go to her Instagram and see what she looks like in her late 50s, because she walks the talk. She's been through it all, some traumatic medical trauma crap too from back in the day. We'll talk about all of it. But more importantly, what she's got for you is she just came out with an amazing book titled Feel Great in 28. That's a kickstart plan for midlife women. You want to release unwanted weight, you want to get that zest back, all that stuff, even with chronic disease. Along for the ride, you need to get this book, and we'll put everything in the show notes and talk with Barbara at the end about where to get that book. Barbara, welcome to the show.
Hey, Elle, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on your show.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. And I'll let everyone know too that Barbara actually has an hour module in my Ultimate Thyroid course because she herself has Hashimoto's. And so let's just start with the crappy medical physical journey that was what led you to be an expert, where now you are helping other people get there.
Oh, yes. I love sharing my story, because if I can help anybody prevent, what I went through, or shorten the timeline, really, it really all started in my 30s, in my mid 30s. And I was tired all the time. And doctors would tell me, well, we're just getting older. Okay, I'm in my 30s. I have no children. And if you ask any parent in their 30s, like, I have no business, being tired, for
Right.
sure. And then they did finally, check my thyroid, only the TSH, and, it was abnormal. So I did go on Synthroid, and I still had issues. I was still tired. And that's when I got, told, well, we're all just getting older. Your labs are fine. And, nothing else. And meanwhile, I'd gotten married, and we were thinking about starting a family. And then all of a sudden I got all these horrible issues, female issues. And I ended up with a hysterectomy, but, when I was, before I turned 39. And so that was devastating. And still I was tired all that time. I mean, I was tired for well over 15 years. And then my blood pressure started going up. I ended up needing 2 medications to control it at high normal. I had the digestive issues, body-wide joint pain, brain fog, of course, the weight gain. And, it's just a horrible experience. And I was really, really losing a lot of hope. And the worst symptom of all was I lost my zest for life. I used to love living, love life. And I would just, make excuses all the time for not, doing anything social. I just worked, and then I would pound down the coffee. So now I have adrenal fatigue. I ended up actually getting pneumonia a couple of times too, just from, being worn out and stressed out. And it was just horrible, horrible. And my diet, was not helpful either. I was following a vegan vegetarian diet. I thought that was the answer, and I would double down on it, and I would just get worse and worse. And I was probably vegan maybe 60-70% of that time, and thinking that this was my answer and I must not be doing it right. That's why I'm still not feeling well.
Like I've got to keep tweaking, because clearly it's here somewhere, the answer. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And what's interesting is when I would eat, vegetarian foods like eggs and cheese, those are a disaster for me. So when my poor body needed some, proper amino acid profiles, and it was just a disaster. And it was really tough because family members and people close to me were even starting to not buy it. It's an invisible disease, really, when you're ill like that. And I'd, later on, figured out I had Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, and chronic Lyme disease. And, when I did finally get those diagnosed, it was helpful to know for sure with that, but I still wasn't feeling great. And I needed to do my part, the lifestyle things, the nutrition, the balanced movement, that those kinds of things. And when I did that, when I put all that together, mindset, movement, lifestyle, and the nutrition, that's when the magic happened and things started to shift in my way. But I didn't figure this out until I was 53 and I was in the height of menopause. I was feeling poorly from all of that. And I still had that small glimmer of hope just to keep going, to keep trying. Like I wasn't buying it. I just knew, people were saying, well, maybe you need some counseling and psychotherapy and things like that. And I am 100% behind that. But I just knew it was something physical. For sure. I knew there was something underneath that. So I did finally find practitioner, that helped figure that out. But like I said, that was just the beginning. I still wasn't feeling well. Still was tired all the time. Fatigue was my biggest symptom. That was the worst, for sure. But then when I figured it out, and like you said at the beginning, I became a primal health coach. That was a big turning point for me. Going with the primal lifestyle, that was a big lever, like a significant one. And that was my entry point into moving away from the vegan vegetarian nutrition. Was I randomly went to a local seminar. It was called Delete the Wheat, and it was being held by a registered dietitian that used to work with Dr. William Davis of the Wheat Belly. He lives in
Hmm.
Wisconsin. And, I went to it not knowing it was going to be basically a paleo type nutrition thing. And they're talking about eating, meat and animal products all the time. Like, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong place. But I'm like, well, I'm going to stay. I'm like, I'm just going to stay. Like, I'm not going to, and that's a whole nother subject, like not having confidence and things like that to get up and just leave. But I'm glad I didn't. That was when it
Right.
served
And that's
me.
one thing where it served you, right?
That's a one time in my life. It was good. I was not confident. So I stuck it out and I listened. I'm like, you know what? Something inside told me try it. So on my way home, I actually bought ground beef and I made taco salad, because she, was paleo based. I thought, well, okay, let me try it. Something inside me just said, just try it. And I was, a bit, it was an adjustment, to, cook the meat and all of that. It's been years, it was like 15 years of not having that. And oh my
What
gosh,
what were you
I
feeling when you were cooking the meat? Were you like, ew, gross, but I have to try it? Or were you like, fuck it, I don't care. I'm just trying this. I've tried everything. Like, I don't even care. Like, what were,
yeah,
because, I mean,
it was definitely a back and forth of that. Like, oh, this is so
yeah.
gross, but I'm like, I've got to do something. Like, clearly, my life is not. I mean, I was really getting down, like super down. So, I'm like, I'm desperate now. Like, now I'm desperate. And actually, Elle, I felt fantastic when I ate it, and it tasted so good. It
Nice. Yeah.
was, it was good. And you know how they say with digestion, a lot of times, those people say, well, when you're on the vegan diet, you can't digest animal protein. And I had digestive issues, remember, too, the bloating and all
Mhm.
that, along with my other symptoms. And, I had no problem digesting that. Like it was no problem at all.
That is
Like I
such
felt,
a vegan vegetarian propaganda thing when they're like, no, if you, yeah, once you've been vegetarian for a while, like your body won't be able to digest. Your body's dying to
yeah,
digest meat.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, and then doing things like, creating, the lifestyle things were really important too, like creating healthy boundaries, like back to that confidence thing. And, learning to say no, honoring your sleep routine, not saying yes to everything, so, a lot of things factored into that, a lot of the mindset pieces, so that's why with my program and my book, I address mindset a lot and stress management and sleep, because to me, those are just as important as what you put on your plate, at least
Yeah.
for successful, sustainable health and, achieving your health and weight loss goals. And I'm happy to say, like, through all of that, I never during those 15 years of illness, I did try the popular weight loss plans. I went on different ones and I did lose weight. I was miserable. And then I still had high blood pressure. I was still on 2 blood pressure meds. I was still fatigued. So the only difference was I could wear smaller jeans. I was starving. And then I gained the
Right.
weight back, which was very defeating. Yeah, for sure. And one of the diets had snacks that you buy from the company and they're full of soy protein isolate. I mean, that was a night that actually put me back some, with my
Hmm.
thyroid health,
Yep.
if anything. And so, right now I eat, when I lost my weight and I've kept it off, I'm 59 now, and my transformation started at 53. It took some time, for sure, but I have not, I didn't track anything, when I went with a primal based nutrition plan. I didn't track anything. I was never hungry. And it's very satiating. And that happens with a lot of my clients too. They're not tracking anything. Sometimes I track
I don't either
protein.
because once you get, well, I think when I started Paleo Primal, the most important thing in hindsight was that I looked up just generally what level of carbs were in things that I ate, just for
Hmm.
like to see that because really had no idea, right? That a pint of
Yeah.
blueberries was 14 carbs, or that like a green juice, just a green juice was 26 grams of carbohydrate. So here I
Hmm.
am, right? So in going with that primal, staying under 150 total grams of carbohydrate, or if you're a smaller woman like me,
Hmm.
it's got to be somewhat even less. I mean, that was just huge. Counting the carbs,
Yeah.
knowing that a
And
potato has 64, being able to go, oh, okay. And that was the only thing I learned, but I didn't calculate or track anything in an app, but I just sort of like did those calculations. And then, like you said, when you're focused on protein and produce and satiating yourself with a primal diet, you really don't have to worry about it.
right, right. And the thing about carbs, the way I look at it with, the primal health coach with the 100 to 150 grams of carbs, to me, that's normal carb, not low carb. Like I know
Yeah.
like in circles, like that's considered low carb, but to me, I mean, I eat a lot
Oh,
of, vegetables and fruits and things like that, and I'm tracking my food now for a different reason. It's for the fitness competition I'm in.
yeah,
So
let's
it's a
talk
little
about that for a
bit.
second because you're 59 and you have entered a bikini competition. And again, what you described as your former self shows in your before and after photos on your Instagram and in your materials where it's like you can almost see how sad when you're, you know what I mean? It goes
Oh,
along with that
yeah.
description. And then to look at you now in a bikini body competition, like, come
Yes.
on. And your body is rocking.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, thank you. And it's, I never thought I would say this, but I love working out. I love fitness. And I'm happy to say, like, one thing I don't like is chronic cardio. And that's another big piece of this primal lifestyle is like there's none of that. It's a lot of lifting and strength training. And I just love, that the body, when you give it what it needs, it will respond favorably. When you take away when it doesn't. And I love being an example of that. I love living that life, because before I didn't, in all my 30s and 40s, I didn't work out. I was fatigued. And then I did try to work out once way back in 2007. I actually injured my shoulder and ended up with shoulder surgery. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. Cortisone shots, I've had neck spine surgery, shoulder surgery, and that was all from inflammation and weak bones. I wasn't getting enough protein. A lot of your bones are comprised of a lot of protein, so it's really important for sure. And I did end up with osteopenia in my 40s and things like that. So doing this fitness competition is a big it's a big goal for me. And really I enjoy it, but it's definitely serious fitness. And I'm able to adhere to my nutrition while I'm prepping for it. And, when it comes down to right before the competition, there'll be some cutting, but it's a short period. So all of this has been totally primal. It's been fantastic. So it's actually complementing my lifestyle for sure.
I love it. I have a question about, well, or just, I know you know what I'm going to be getting at here, but can you explain to people why you were a nurse and yet had no idea what to do about what to eat? Because I think
Yeah.
people think that, like, well, you're a nurse, you should know about like how to test the thyroid and you should know. Didn't you take a class? And tell us why you didn't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, just like medical doctors, right? They
Yeah,
didn't get
exactly.
proper nutrition in school, and as a nurse, we follow the ADA. Eat your grains and all this inflammatory food and canola oil and things like that. It's a disaster, and the doctors truly have no idea, what proper nutrition is. And I love the doctors that have been, awakened to this or enlightened. And unfortunately, a lot of them had something bad happen to themselves or a loved one, like Dr. Amy Myers. I mean, usually, it's something like that makes them, or Dr. Terry Walls, looking for the answer,
Yeah.
and yeah. And, so, these people, these doctors that went on to further their training with functional medicine and things like that, after they already spent so many years in school, I just bow down to them. Like they're actually, dedicate my book to them, to the doctors that have gone on to
Yes.
help people turn their lives around, because I am forever grateful, for, healthcare practitioners that are on my team, that are enlightened with, what proper nutrition is, and lifestyle and things like that. So yeah, it's actually, it's such a, it really, it bothers me to the core about, like, with hospitals and things like that, and,
Yeah.
and I told my husband, I'm like, if I ever end up in the hospital, I'm fasting. You better bring me my food.
That's right.
Yeah. 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 It's very scary. And then, what they give to, even children too. And don't even get me started, like, on cancer and things like that. It's like, oh my gosh, I remember taking my mom to her oncologist office, and in their fridge for the patients, there's, high sugar, high fructose corn syrup, grape juice. And I understand, like, if somebody passes out, you need to give them sugar, but this is a doctor's office. We can give them some glucose, so in a different way if that were to happen. But that's not why it was there. It was there because I thought it was, a treat for the patients. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster.
Well, and
Yeah.
I'm going to elaborate on why exactly it would be a disaster to give a cancer patient a bunch of sugar. I guess we
Hmm.
can just look at it from the back end of things, which is when they're searching for cancer in your body, they
Yeah.
give you sugar to ingest because the cancer cells light up in the
Hmm.
presence. Maybe I'm not describing that as best that I could. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Those PET scans. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exactly what it's doing. It lights up where the sugar is at and where the cancer is. I mean, it really is. And you hear about people with the brain cancers doing keto, or
Yep.
Dr. Nasha Winters with the metabolic approach to cancer.
Yep.
I mean, these people are all about, like, let's balance out the sugar.
And
And
let's
then
starve the cancer of its
mhm,
favorite, thing.
yeah. Yeah. And, speaking of sugar, with the midlife women that I work with, I mainly work with midlife women in my coaching. And, I'm an obvious passion for that, given that my transformation occurred in menopause, and we're all told you can't gain muscle in menopause and you can't lose weight and all that. But, they're all naturally insulin resistant. You lose
Yep.
your insulin sensitivity goes down. So these ladies are extra ripe for cancer, right? Like they're already, it doesn't matter about your family history, just going through menopause, you become less insulin sensitive. And so you're setting yourself up for disaster. Not only are you going to not lose weight, but you can end up with one of these catastrophic illnesses. So yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah. So yeah, seeing that grape juice in the oncologist's office it really, really aggravates me. Yeah.
It's so sad. Or the low carb menu at the hospital is actually the meal is 100 grams of carbs, which is a high carb meal. It's like literal lying in your face.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I
Like,
mean, that's such an important point about, like, the differences, like, with what people preserve low carb as, because, like, a lot of the studies that are out there, when they're comparing, like, a vegan diet to, okay, the, animal based, low carb diet, that, sometimes the diet they're comparing to has, like, almost 200 carbs. I'm like, that's not proper carbs,
no.
like they're not comparing it, correctly. So yeah. Oh yeah. It's yeah, it's a very, it's scary out there, because people, you go to your doctor or to your medical, team, expecting to get help and answers, and it's like throwing gasoline on the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us more about your program because someone would say, oh, 28 days, really? And I'm here to tell you, yes, I know why. Can you explain to everyone why you really
Yes.
turn it around in
Well,
28 days and
it is
get
it
into
is
it?
It is a kickstart program, so it gets you well on your way. I'm a very big believer in transformation is ongoing and it takes time and things like that for sure. But 28 days, it gives you a chance to really convert your body to become metabolically flexible. So you could be a fat burner and a carb burner, so you can shift back and forth. And it's developed the each week there's habits built on each other. So the first week is really easy. In fact, right now I'm running a group program, for the 28 days kickstart. And the ladies that are in it right now are in week 1. And that's a fun week. It's things like, drink more water and avoid sugar. But each week the habits build on, and eventually we remove the high inflammatory foods like the industrial seed oils, of course, the sugar, the grains 1 week, then the dairy. And then at the end, it talks about continuing it on for at least 30 days. And before you add anything back in, how to assess those things when you add them back in. Because, we can only eat whatever you want, but what's really helpful is to know how your body's going to respond to that. Then it's a choice, right? It's like, well, if I eat that, I know I'm going to feel like crap, the next day, or in my case, I'll get joint pain, or
Mhm.
brain fog, or, inflammation. My antibodies will go up, things like that. And so, so it's a great way just to develop habits. And there's also, I'm very big on addressing all 4 pillars: the mindset, lifestyle, nutrition, and balanced movement. So when you put all those together, the primal way, really, and getting sunshine and walking and things like that, the the magic happens when you combine all of that, together. And so each week it's about habit formation. So that way, it becomes sustainable. So it is 4 weeks long. I do like doing longer coaching with my one-on-one clients. I have 16-week programs, and then I have retention programs like that too. But I found there was a need just to get people kickstarted, and and they get great results from it, just from that shift. And usually the shift starts to occur if you went full in on everything. Things would happen a bit sooner, like at the 21-day mark.
Yep.
But I'm building up habits over it, so it's a gentle way to um not shocking the body too much, but, just doing it in a gentle way over the 28 days. So, yeah, I love the program. And that's what compelled me to write the book, about it. The book is based on my 28-day program.
I want to kind of jump back a little bit to something you said earlier about how when you were on some of these like classic standard weight loss, or at the time of the zeitgeist, like
Yeah.
diet, whatever it was, that you were, yeah, maybe a couple pant sizes lighter, but you were probably hungry and dying inside, right?
Oh, yes. I was starving. And this one was where you eat the protein snack that you buy from them. You can eat one meal a day that was, meat and vegetables, but everything else was their snacks. So they had like brownies, muffins, pancake. It was like one pancake, but it all had the soy protein isolate in it. And so they're very big on eating every 2 to 3 hours. So you're constantly looking at the clock. When is it next time to eat? And then the thing is with some of this sweet stuff like the brownies, some of us, I'm one of these people where even though if there's no true carbohydrate, like it's a 0 calorie sweetener in there, your brain can still that taste on your tongue, the sweet taste can trigger a brain function for your insulin to react to that. So and so that
Even
actually made
watching
me,
cooking shows can do that.
oh, that's amazing. I had not
Like
heard that.
yeah, because
Yeah.
your body, even when you sit down at a restaurant, you have the anticipation of eating, you're looking at the menu, your body is almost can start to produce it then too, right? I mean, again, it's the
Hmm.
messages we're sending.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I want to get back to another point again on that level of you're a couple sizes sooner and but you're suffering. All right, so I was at the time of right before I got hypothyroid, I was on a low low carb, low fat diet, which is really bad.
Hmm.
Working out too much, doing glycolytic workouts, right? The chronic cardio.
Yeah.
Even though I was lifting weights. Now listen, I felt like I loved that body. And people would come up to me, like you, look at you, and you go, oh, you work out, you get, right? And you're, oh, biggest compliment ever, right? But dying inside, food
Hmm.
addict, stressed out. I'd be driving in the car, and then I'd have like a hangry meltdown. I'd have to like get off the freeway because I couldn't drive another 20 minutes because I'd have to go to a grocery store to go shove some meat and cheese, whatever, you know what I mean? It was
Yes.
suffering. And I thought I'd have
Yeah.
to go to Overeaters Anonymous. Now, cut to that was when I was like 30. Okay, 31.
Hmm.
I'm 50 now. I now weigh the same as I did then, and I don't ever think about food. I don't care. And when I get hungry, it's not hangry. It's just a nice thought. These are the benefits of being primal. That's why Barbara and I went to the effort to be like, we need to like get certified in this because this shit works.
Hmm.
It solves eating disorder type of stuff. I used to bargain. Oh, if I get the spot in front of the grocery store,
Yeah.
I can buy the donuts. Like, I get it. I understand the
Yeah.
mind. And I thought to myself at the time, is everybody else suffering? Is that like, are all the skinny people, are they suffering and just not talking about it? Or are they not? And I'm cursed. I felt cursed. And if you're out there, Barbara and I know how that feels. We know how that
Hmm.
feels. And
Yeah.
this is the paradigm, the ancestral paradigm in lockstep with your genetics, what your DNA expects of you as a human. And that is why the success stories are always like, thank God I don't even really obsess about food anymore. Like that's, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so liberating and free, just to eat like, well, like a human being should eat. Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. And you're sharing that about, pulling over. I remember, I used to stop at the local grocery store, when I was out and about, and I would eat, I would buy stuff from the bakery, eat it in the car on the way home, and throw the container it was in the garbage can in the garage. Or if my husband was in the garage working
For
on something,
sure.
I would hide it under the seat. Like, what an addict, like I would hide the container, I
I
mean,
did that too. I did that because I
yeah.
had roommates or whatever. And
Hmm.
I made so many like crazy
Hmm.
deals. And I opened the fridge every 2 hours and it was literally consumed kind of every day, all day. I even would make bargains like I would be like, if I just finished lunch, but clearly I wasn't going to be satiated enough because, it was a
Yeah.
bullshit diet.
Yes.
And then I literally would eat that meal and already be thinking about what I could get away with late. It was
Yep.
always gauging what I could get away with pigging out. I was just not satiated appropriately. I was
Hmm.
not on the right paradigm and I was a sugar
Yeah.
burner. Can you talk
Yeah.
about the difference between what it means to be a sugar burner and what it means to be a fat burner? But let's just start off with what are the tip-offs for the people out there if they're like, "Oh, am I a sugar burner?" Then what are the things that they might
Yeah.
experience?
Well, first of all, you probably get hangry, hungry and angry when it's time to eat, which is constantly, because your insulin is all over the place, for sure. You might get some hypoglycemic episodes, and those are horrible. That's when like, I need something right now to eat, and then you grab a Snickers bar or something like that, for sure. And also, from an immune perspective too, you're more prone to immune issues, colds and things like that. Your immune system is battling, when you constantly have this sugar going on, the sugar in your body, and you're constantly, that's all you're metabolizing, whereas with and then it's short-lived. Your energy spurts are very short-lived and you're tired a lot. You're going to get worn out. It probably will lead to some adrenal fatigue too at some point as well, but you're just not a happy person. You can have mood imbalances. Yeah, you're just, all over the place.
Craving
You can have
grains,
sleep
particularly.
issues.
Yeah. Craving
Yep.
like carby things too. I remember that was just so
Can't get
huge.
enough. Yeah, your bodies just can't get enough. And and then just to offshoot about the non-primal way of living when you're not eating properly, like, the proper human diet. Also too, you have poor gut health typically with all of that, because grains can be really tough on your gut. And yeah, and so and the inflammatory oils and things like that. So you're not making neurotransmitters like you should. A lot of your neurotransmitters, your feel-good ones like dopamine and serotonin, come from your gut health. So if your gut is not healthy, that adds to that. So you have, a lot of different things at play as to why you're having these hangry episodes and mood imbalances. And it's almost it's, for me at least, it was kind of scary. It felt out of control. I was
Yes.
out of control.
And
And
it,
it's
you are
like,
out of control. Yeah.
yeah, where when you're
And
a
this goes
fat.
to the temptation. I talked
Mhm.
about this with Aaron Power of Primal Health Coaching too, uh, where before, because I was that crazy addict in my head, and I'm sure you are, if I was
Mhm.
around a bunch of treats and bad stuff, it was like really hard. Do you know what I mean? Where
Mhm.
now it's not. I either will take a bite of a donut because I don't care,
Mhm.
right? You know what I mean? Or I won't,
Yeah.
but I'm not like dying. I don't even want it. It's so
Yeah.
different. It's so much more pleasurable
Ugh,
to be out in the world with people and not feel like you need to eat everything and every piece of cake.
right. I feel, it is apps. I can seriously say no struggle at all, no problem at all. All the family gatherings I go to, most of them have all the bad foods. I have no problem. I love feeling great. I mean, this trumps everything. I love not being attached to that food and not, I love waking up and feeling great, and at the beginning of my transformation, I used to play a little bit. I would eat some of the things, especially with the autoimmune condition. So I would toy with gluten and things like that. And I figured out real soon that that doesn't work for me. Like I lose
Yeah.
a few days, when I do that. Like I'm
Mhm.
not feeling well for a few days, like hungover, brain fogged, fatigued, face is puffy, all of that stuff. And sometimes it would not go away in a few days. It would take longer. So it just wasn't worth it. And I do not feel, sometimes people say, "Oh, you can't have that." And if yeah, so at family gatherings and things like that, when all the treats and desserts are there and or the foods in the meal that are just not healthy really for anybody, sometimes my loving family and friends will say, "Oh, you can't have that." And it's like, "No, I choose not to have it because I choose to feel great." So I'm very big on you can have whatever you want, whatever you want to eat, you could do what you want to do, but it's a choice. And it's really interesting with my clients too. Sometimes they'll fall off, especially if it's more towards the beginning on my long-term clients, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I felt so horrible the next day." And I'm just like, "Yeah, that's your body saying no thank you." I mean, the body's pretty wise, and once you wake it up to proper nutrition, it's amazing how you respond to that both ways. When you're eating well and you're a fat burner. And one thing about fat burner I wanted to say, just to get back to that, the fat burner versus
Yeah.
sugar burner, is I just have two words for that: even keel. Everything is
Mhm.
even keel in your body, like your brain is, your body is. And when your body's in this more relaxed state, when it's nice and even like that, it can actually process, things. Your immune system functions better. Everything functions better. I mean, when you're in this relaxed state, when your body's not afraid in this, cortisol, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm starving" stage because your insulin shot up and now your blood sugar dropped because here comes the insulin surge. And now you're hangry and now you have to get something to eat, and it's, just it's a much, it's like it's as if everything calms down, and in a good way. And yeah, very good. And sort of like, the analogy of the wood, the big log on the fire, your energy burns through really well. Like I work out fasted at the gym. I'm fasted,
I
like,
do.
and
I
I
do
don't eat
every
like,
single day. I work out
yeah.
fast. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm not eating a quote snack or anything before I go to bed. Like I'm fasted, and
Hmm.
yeah, and it's because I'm a fat burner. My
That's
body can
right.
handle it. It's like wood on the fire. Where if I was a carbohydrate burner, I'd probably have to eat before I work out. So, well, to have a decent workout, and I would be feeling famished after the workout. In fact, sometimes after I work out, I'm not even getting to my food yet because I like to get like certain things done at home, like I have pets and take care of them and things like that. And yeah, so you can actually function in life. You're not chained to the refrigerator, the stove, the store to get food. You're free. You're
And you can wait hours if you wanted to
Mhm.
eat after working out because you're not going to
Yep.
catabolize muscle like you would be if you were a sugar burner. And I
Yeah.
remember this because this was the thing that confused me. I always, back then, I was like, wait, what? So I have to eat a shake before I work out and then a banana? Like, wait, what? Like, this
Mhm.
seems like there are all these rules. Does that sound fucking ancestral to anyone? Does that sound normal? Like, does that
No.
sound like, okay, this
Yeah.
sounds like the whoever created whatever, I don't care, aliens, God, whatever, it sounds like a cursed existence if
Yes.
that's not like, come on, right? That's so
Yeah.
wrong. And I
Yeah.
remember that was the old personal training, eat every 2, 3 hours. This is that kind
Yep.
of philosophy. And if you don't feel, and they always used to say, after you work out, if you lift weights, you should eat protein within an hour. But then you talk to Mark Sisson, you turn your body to be a fat burner, and he would
Hmm.
say, well, unless you're like you in a competition where you might want to be within that threshold, but in general, you don't have to worry about it because
Hmm.
you're not going to start catabolizing that muscle. You are being fueled by that oak log, that fat is the primary burner versus all of this sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're, well into this being you know, when you're burning your fat and your carbs and you know, you're metabolically burning, like you should be. Yeah, you can go a long time without that, without eating. Yeah. And it's very, and it's not that, and some people mistake that like with my fasting. They're like, well, of course you're not heavy, because you're fasting, so you eat less calories. Oh, I eat a
Not at
lot of
all.
calories.
No.
I mean, because like I'm tracking them
I
now for
just
my
eat them all in a
fitness.
window over in the afternoon.
Yes. And that's what I tell my clients too. I don't want you to eat less during your eating
No.
window. I want you to make sure you get your nutrition in, for sure. Especially, my ladies that are over 50, it's like I'm really, unless they have some medical reason not to eat more protein, and that's debatable too, for those situations. That's another story for another day. But basically, they yeah, it's like you got to get that in, to do well and be healthy and function, especially with the poor gut health. They're just not breaking down those amino acids, so it's kind of like, you overflow on the protein so that way you can capture all those amino acids, for sure, especially since your stomach acid can change after 50. I take hydrochloric acid and enzymes to help that along because I want to capture every nutrient I can, for
Hmm.
sure. And I'm not taking a lot. I don't need to, but that can be helpful. But if someone's not taking enzymes or something like that and they're over 50, it's like definitely, you need to kind of overflow on that protein some so you can capture those amino acids because you're not going to break them all down like you did when you were 30.
That's
Especially
right.
if you have like autoimmune disease and things like that. I mean, I work with a lot of autoimmune ladies with autoimmune conditions too, just because I have a passion for that as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the gut health stuff is very important, for sure.
So important. I want to get
Mhm.
into something you touched on it briefly, but let's talk about the like snide remarks, the stuff from people. And before we get into that, I want to mention this. So there was a study many years ago that they did on alcoholics, and it was about alcoholics that were going to, let's say, go get sober. And then they did a sort of having all of the people around them sort of pray for them. It was sort of like an intention study, right?
Mhm.
So they'd have like a healer who didn't know the person who was like intending for their, healing, and then they'd have like family members. But what they found is that family members and friends didn't necessarily want the alcoholic to get better. The drinking buddy, right, is going to
Mhm.
lose his buddy.
Yeah.
Or the person that's like, F that alcoholic, just I hope they die, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like they ruined my
Mhm.
life. So I bring that
Yeah.
up to say that it can happen too when you are midlife, particularly, and all the people, friends around you may not be healthy, they may not be all fit or whatever. And now suddenly you're going to go on a new thing. Get ready for some fucking snide shit to come your way. Be
Yep.
prepared. Let's talk about some things that have been said to you. And it could be anything from, right, like people going, I've had someone say something like, I was ordered something at dinner, like, oh, you're so healthy, you
Yeah.
know, or right, like, oh, come on, just have one. So there could be peer pressure and that kind of
Mhm.
snide stuff. But then let's talk about this not relying on your partner in your mid 50s to suddenly not bring any pie home. You have to not eat the pie. This is on you. Don't
Yeah.
enlist other people. Barbara, go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to take full ownership of your life here, and it is up to you. And I run into this quite a bit with people. And actually, my husband, he doesn't follow a primal lifestyle and nutrition plan. And I've gotten actually more bold over time. As things have gone on. With some people well, oh, that's all you're going to have, or you're not going to eat any. Oh, come on, just one bite. And I think sometimes some people when they're pushing like that, and if, especially when they're not in top health or in great health, and you can tell, they're on a bunch of medications, and they look unfit and all of that, no judgment, but they're not, you could tell sometimes when someone's not doing well, like with autoimmunity. I feel like sometimes I could see it in people's eyes, like, oh, you just don't, regardless, of their frame, it's
Yep.
like you just look like you're not well, like you look depressed, like I know that look. But I think sometimes with some people, it's a reflection. You're a mirror for them. You're holding up what they're not doing. You're like
Right.
you're a
And it
reminder
makes
to
them
them
feel
like of
bad
what they're
about
not doing.
themselves. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, I had someone, once say to me about like, well, I don't have time to go to the gym for, 2 hours a day like you do. And I'm like, first of all, I don't go to the gym for 2 hours a day. and, uh, and secondly, I work like, a lot of hours every week. It's like, I don't have much time either. I do what's important, and that's the thing, you have to make yourself important. It is important for you to take care of yourself. You know, um, and that's a big message with some of my clients. Sometimes it's, about helping them find their self-worth, before we even hit nutrition.
That's
I've
right.
had that happen, where you need to know you matter. And, because when you do have your self-worth, you're going to take care of yourself. And, that old saying, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else. That's so true. And eventually, with the population I work with midlife and beyond, one of the big whys is they don't want their kids to end up taking care of them like they're taking care of their parents. And
Right.
I get that. And it's like, so, remind them like, if you keep going like this is what's going to happen. Yeah, that's why a lot of times too, like, I'm in my social media, I give away, free resources and things like that, just because I want people to feel great and get on the train, like start to feel as great as I do. Like I want everyone to have that. And you can do it. And then a lot of times the mindset thing too, a lot of people are stuck in the thing of, well, just because certain symptoms are common, that doesn't make them normal. Just because, well, everybody, gets this when they get older. It's like, well, no, they don't. And just because it's common, because it's a lifestyle disease, doesn't make it normal, and that's a big thing too, to turn around. That's why I get pretty passionate about that, especially being, my transformation occurred as an older woman. I'm just here to say, you can do this.
It's
You can
possible.
switch it around.
And please, everybody, go look at her before and after pictures because you might not even believe that it is actually very simple and sustainable. Now, granted, you were doing some extra because you're training for a bikini competition and some, but still,
Mhm.
Barbara looks like that kind of all year round, except for you're probably even more cut when you're training, right? But this transformation is such a 180 in every way. And listen, you can feel great in 28. Tell us, I mean, it's daily wellness for you, correct? But give us all of
Mhm.
the information on how we can access your book, and congratulations for putting it out there, and then all of your programs and working with you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Yes. Well, my website is dailywellnessforyou.com. And my book is called, as you said, Feel Great in 28, and it's available on Amazon. And I do also have a free Facebook group for ladies called, it's called Fabulous and Flourishing Women. So that's also a great place to get. I do short, fun, free challenges in there. And, it's just a very uplifting space. It's mindset things and, of course, health, for sure in there. And I'm also on Instagram at Barbara at Coach, excuse me, at Coach Barbara Jean. That's my Instagram handle. And I'm also on LinkedIn under my name, Barbara Diaz de Leon. So those are places that where I can be found.
You are such a great example of not only walking the talk, but being an example that, again, like you said back in the interview, people, doctors saying, well, you're getting older. Or like your
Mhm.
dreams of a fit body are impossible, is what they're saying. And Barbara's here to show you that it is possible. Look at all she's went through, and she still got there.
Yeah, you can do it. Yes, it's
You
not too
can
late.
do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I love you. I'm so glad you came on. Everybody, go get a copy of Feel Great in 28. Go to dailywellnessforyou.com and connect with Barbara. Thanks so much for coming on. And for everyone else, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Hey, listeners. Over the years, a ton of companies have approached me to collaborate, but I will only promote companies whose products I believe in and that I actually use and consume on a regular basis. So let me tell you about some of my favorite companies that I can offer you discounts for. Rep Provisions, an amazing company doing incredible things for our planet, topsoil, and animals with regenerative agriculture, and it's my number one source for quality pasture-raised meat and chicken. Visit repprovisions.com and use code L15 for 15% off. I'm also obsessed with a company called Carnivore Crisps. They make a lean, all-natural, and delicious alternative to conventional snacking, made with just real meat and real salt. Totally addictive, and my favorite ones are the beef brisket and the ribeye. Visit carnivorecrisps.com and use code PALEO10 for 10% off. I also love and regularly use Paleo Valley products. They make amazing supplements and delicious paleo products. I use the superfood greens powder, grass-fed beef sticks, the organ complex, and their bone broth bars. I love the lemon and apple. I also use their essential C complex and more. Visit paleovalley.com/promos/LRUS for 15% off. I also love Primal Kitchen. They make delicious paleo-approved, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and no refined sugar products, and I use them daily, from their collagen powders and sauces and marinades to their avocado and olive oil. So good, so healthy. Visit primalkitchen.com and use code L10 for 10% off. I also love paleo powder and use it almost on everything I cook. They make incredible seasoning blends, and they also have these incredible grain-free coatings that feel just like crispy breadings that you would have had prior to knowing that there's another way. So visit paleopowder.com and use code L15 for 15% off.